There's a hard. We all have a hard.
We all have a hard.
Yep.
But God looks and he says, daughter, I have been in control the entire time. I'm not losing control now.
Say it.
And all the way down to the very last moment when my daughter took her last breath, I heard him say, I have been in control the entire time. I'm not losing control now.
Welcome to the Girls Podcast. Good to see everyone. I am sitting beside the beautiful Sarah Diaz. I'm so excited for you guys to get to know her. She's one of my dear friends, and her story is going to encourage and inspire us all. Welcome to the Girls Podcast, Sarah.
Thank you so much. I am so honored and so blessed to be here. I'm so excited.
We are so excited to have you. When we were praying about this episode, you are one of those people that so many people know you, even if you don't know them, and they're just inspired by who you are. You walk into a room with this presence, strength, grace, leadership, but also authenticity and tenderness. And not very many people know the journey that you are navigating and have navigated, but you just walk into a room and people are like, I want to be like her. And so I'm so excited to unpeel some of the layers of just who you are, because you're a business leader, you're an influencer, you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a prayer warrior, you're a woman of God. And I just think that people want to know the woman behind Sarah Diaz. And sometimes you can see someone and you can think they've never been through anything. Everything is gone according to their plan. Everything that they put in their Pinterest board and they prayed about just happened. They obviously don't have a care. They've never had a struggle because of the presence that they carry. And I think sometimes people can see you and think that you've not ever had to walk through anything weighty. And obviously we know that's not true, but I would just love for you to share a little bit of your story, your motherhood journey, just your London story, your babies, and all the things, because I feel like God is involved in this. And I think we live in a world right now where when sometimes life is not according to our plan or our Pinterest board, we feel forgotten. But even though you've had things in your life that did not go, according to like our timetable or our plan, you live with this surrender as like God is in control and he has me close.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about your family and your story? Because I feel like it's going to touch so many girls. And lastly, as we're in this holiday season, I feel like we need to know how to navigate tough things.
Yes. No, thank you so much. And I agree with you on how we look at people and we think, oh, they're so great. They've never been through anything.
They're so perfect.
But if you look throughout history and even through the Word of God, everyone who's ever done anything great has had quite a journey in order to get there. There's no one who is still known to this day who had an easy life.
Say it.
Never been easy. So if you have had an easy life, if you've gone through stuff that's been very difficult, it means that there's greatness on the other side. And
Well
so,
said.
absolutely. So within my life, I'm the type of person who has always been a visionary.
Okay.
So I was done with high school and I was like, I'm going to go to seminary school and I'm going to do so much. And I always had this big vision. And I went in and, I was like, I'm going to be top of my class. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to go, plant churches all over the world. And everything was always just like big, big, big. Right. And then I found a guy who had an even bigger vision than me. And it was just incredible. And we came together and I got married at the age of 21.
Wow. A baby.
I was such a baby. I look back at the pictures and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was like a teenager basically.
Right.
I don't know how that all happened, but it all came together and I had thought, okay, I'm going to get married. We're going to go. And we had wanted to plant a church in London and we're like, we're going to go do this. And I'm going to have 2 kids by the time I'm 25. And the crazy thing is that I did have 2 kids by the time I was 25.
Wow.
But it didn't happen the way I thought it would.
Okay, talk about it.
So I had my first little boy.
Yes.
His name was Isaac Parker, and he is just the joy of my life.
He's amazing.
Amazing. And we were having so much fun. Everything's great. And then I find out I'm pregnant again. And right from the very beginning, it was different. As soon as I found I was pregnant, I knew it was a girl, and I already had her name. It was incredible because we had been thinking about her since even before Isaac was born, which is just crazy. But I was under the impression that I was having a miscarriage. So
Okay.
whenever we were going to let our families know, I remember it was around Thanksgiving,
Okay.
and we were going to let Carlos's families know, since we're having Thanksgiving with them, that we were going to have a baby. But instead we let them know that it looks like we're having a miscarriage. And I remember sitting on my couch and just weeping. And I was just like, God, I want this baby girl. I know you've given me this baby girl. I don't want her to be gone. Like, I know she's mine. And I just begged God,
Wow.
let me keep my baby. And my mom's a doctor,
Okay.
and she's an OBGYN, which is really cool for
That
me.
comes in handy.
It comes in
You're like, Mom, is this normal? Like,
Yes.
what's happening here?
Yes, it's incredible. And so she reached out to me and she was like, Sarah, I want you to go get blood work done because I think you're still pregnant. And I was
Wow.
like, sure,
Right.
I'll go do that. And so I went, and it turns out I was still pregnant. And it started this journey of, I had a really crazy pregnancy, and everything kept looking off and off until I had this crazy journey with even her birth. And we found out about 8 months after she was born. She had a really complicated time in like the NICU. She was there for a long time. She had a tumor. Everything was really crazy. And then we find out at 8 months old, after her entire body turned blue from head to toe, that she had a condition called Miller-Dieker encephaly.
Okay.
And I had just turned 26, and I'm sitting down in an ICU with my daughter, who I begged God for,
Wow.
finding out that she has a brain disorder. And then I find out that she's not supposed to make it past the age of 2.
Wow. At 26 years old, you
26
find that
years
out.
old, yes. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I've been the planner. I'm the person who was like, I know that I'm going to do this with my life.
Right.
I, got married young. I'm going to have kids by this age. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm like the go person. I never want to just sit down. And I just find out that all my hopes and dreams just got put on pause.
Yep.
Because this daughter that I've been praying for has a brain disorder, and that she wouldn't live past the age of 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was wild. And so as that happened, it shifted our entire life. We were actually pastoring at a church in Laredo.
Yes.
We were youth and young adult pastors, and we ended up moving up to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Because my mom is up there and she has all her doctor friends and everything.
To help you navigate all of this.
Yes, which we needed that.
Yes.
We're like this young couple.
Trying to navigate, yes.
It's impossible.
Right.
And so we get up there and everything shifts. I am teaching pre-K.
Wow. You go from pastor on staff to pre-K teacher.
To pre-K teacher.
And mom of 2.
And mom of 2 with now special needs.
Right.
Medically dependent. I am giving her shots every day.
Wow. So you're mom and nurse.
And nurse. I had to learn how to become a 24-hour nurse. I would go to work during the day, and Carlos took care of her, and then he was doing like web design and stuff like that on the side. So he was doing his work. I was doing mine, but it was just switching off so that he could take care of her during the day. I take care of her throughout the evening and the night, and we're just like switching off and taking care of pre-K kids all day long during that. Yeah. You have to be very blessed and called to be a pre-K teacher. To anyone who's a pre-K teacher,
you're like,
God
I
bless
love you. You're amazing. You're a hero. Yes.
Not my calling.
Plus have kids of your own. Yes.
And have 2 kids of your own.
And be a nurse. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we went into that, and in every single journey, we've just seen where God's taken us and he's provided for us, and he's walked us through everything, and getting, there was a time that we did not have the right community around us. We didn't have the right church that we were a part of. And we had to find that strength within each other and just like within God. And our son, who, it was actually crazy because the name Isaac actually means laughter.
Wow.
And he was the joy that brought us through everything. He was so funny. He would always just make us laugh and laugh. I have pictures and videos of him always like taking London's bags to the ICU whenever we'd go to the hospital. He's ridden on all those ambulances on her bed and everything. He was just right there the whole time. And even in the ICU, he would go and I remember one time we were there for Christmas, and he would go sing carols to all of the nurses.
Stop it. His perspective.
Yes, it was
so
incredible.
beautiful that he still brought that joy even in tough seasons.
Yes.
Wow,
Absolutely.
wow.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, as you walked through all of that, I think that sometimes when life hits and life throws you something that's so unexpected, you can live in a heaviness and live like what else is going to go wrong. And you probably have had more hospital trips than any of us could count collectively. I'm sure you've been more than 10 times. I'm sure you've been probably more than 30 times, more than 50 times. And so how did you survive not knowing what your day held? Because I feel like post-pandemic, we've all gotten even a little more control crazy and wanted to predict and plan everything. And we have trouble when life doesn't go as planned. But you never knew what a given day was going to hold.
Yes.
But how did you stand tall? How did you navigate that? How did you stay consistent?
Yeah. That's a really great question, Oneka. And one of the things I want to share before I get into how I did it is that it is hard.
Yes, that's real.
Life is hard. And a lot of people look and be like, you did it so gracefully, or, you went through, or I watched you walk through all of it and you did it. You were not with me every moment of the day.
Right.
And we all don't understand each other's realities and everything that we go through.
Talk about it.
And it is hard. So no matter what your journey is,
Say it.
It's hard, and it's okay that it's hard.
Right.
So a story that I want to tell you, because this is going to answer your question, is back whenever Lennon was first being born.
I think I know this story, and I need the girls to hear it.
Yes. No, it
Earl
is.
talks about it all the time.
Oh, that's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so I remember I'm in the room. London had stopped moving in my womb.
Wow.
And so they came, they were like, you're going to have to go into labor. And I'm contracting and all this stuff. She was at 34 weeks, but she had stopped growing at about 30 weeks. And she was not moving. And we had the sound of the heart rate. So if you listen to a heart rate of an infant, for those who maybe don't know, it's very fast.
Yes.
So every time you hear, it's like, and it's just a cute little baby, but it's because it's just so little and everything. Lennon's would go, bum, bum, bum.
Okay.
And it would just get slower and slower. And I remember I was just playing worship music inside of there, and I was just like letting just the presence of God fill the room. And I remember as it got slower and slower, they had let me know before. They were like, okay, so whenever, if we decide that we have to go into an emergency C-section, we're going to give you this little cup. It's going to keep you from like throwing up, and you're going to do this and you're going to do this. And they go through this whole thing. When her heart rate got that slow, every single protocol that they had was out the door. They rushed me out the door, and I'm going down the hallway, right? And it was as if like everything froze. If you were in a movie, just imagine with me, you're in a movie.
I'm with you.
You're
I'm
going
there.
down the hall.
Yes.
Everything is bright. Everything freezes. Even there's like a fly flying over, and then even the fly freezes. Everything freezes. And I can only say that this is God because I don't have stuff like this happen to me. And everything is frozen. And I stop and I look up and I just hear his voice say, I've been in control the entire time. I am not losing control now. And then everything unfroze. I went back in. They got her out within a minute and 45 seconds. A minute and 45 seconds. I had to have 2 blood transfusions afterwards because they just ripped right through everything. They were like,
gosh.
I don't even care. We're not even
we're just grabbing her.
Yes. It was just as quick as possible. And that moment shaped me and it will for the rest of my life. And so every day I never knew what was coming. And I will tell you, and people know this as they go through hard things, as much as my journey was very difficult with London, because there's constant ICU visits. There's constant, doctors saying, we don't know if she's going to make it through the night. I would watch her turn white. I would watch her seize for hours on end, like straight ones, stuff like watch her on ventilators and all this kind of stuff, watching. But that wasn't the only thing I was going through in life.
Wow.
And sometimes we look and we're like, it's just one thing after the other and one thing after the other.
Right.
But you know what? God's been in control the entire time, and he's not losing control now. And everything that I've seen, Carlos and I started a business.
Yep.
It's an ad agency, and it is not easy.
Right.
There are a lot of things that come up.
Sure.
Having another kid now going into his teenage years, which has been its
whole other thing.
Whole
exactly.
other thing
yes,
for real. We need to do something else on that side.
Exactly.
So like we go through so much in life. And when the finances don't match,
Right.
when your friends have betrayed you and you
Yes, it's
feel
real.
alone, you know, it's not just like, okay, so my kids are healthy, you know, but how do I go through all of these other things?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what you're going through.
There's a hard. We all have a hard.
We all have a hard.
Yep.
But God looks and he says, daughter, I have been in control the entire time. I'm not losing control now.
Say it.
And all the way down, Oneka, to the very last moment when my daughter took her last breath
Yeah.
last year in January, I heard him say, I have been in control the entire time. I'm not losing control now. And so I take that and I wake up every morning and I say, God, you have been in control the entire time. I'm going to get up and I'm going to keep worshiping you.
Say it.
I'm going to keep following
Say
you.
it.
I'm going to keep going after God. I'm going to keep running my business. I'm going to keep
Say it.
loving people because you've been in control the entire time and you're not losing control now. There are times in life, you know, I always hear a lot of like, you'll know why one day.
Right.
And I realized one day I was in the hospital. London was really
powerful.
sick. And I was actually talking to Ashley Poku.
Okay. Yes.
And I was talking to her on the phone and I was going through this hard moment. And I was like, you know what just hit me? I don't think I'm ever going to know the why. But that's okay.
We're not owed why.
We're not owed a why. And so I may not ever know why. I may not ever know why I had dreams of having 4 kids.
Right.
And now I had 2 and now I'm only being able to take care of 1. Do I know the why? No. But you know what? I know that God has been in control the entire time. He's not losing control now. My story is not over yet because
it.
I am still breathing. I am still waking up every morning, which means that it's not over. And we are waking up. We are going each and every day.
Yes.
And that's for everyone. Like if you look and you think about the amount of people who are on this earth. You know, we look and we're like, oh my gosh, Dallas is so huge. There's
Right.
people everywhere.
Yes.
And then you go to New York and you're like, oh my gosh, there's even more people.
Right.
And all stuff. But if you look at it in the speck of eternity, it's not that many people.
Right.
And every single person, we think like, oh, well, it's not really that special if everyone's special.
Right.
But guess what? It's not that many people.
Right.
And everyone who is here right now is because they were supposed to be here right now.
Exactly.
Because we woke up in the morning.
Yep.
If you're listening to this, that means that you woke up. That you're
Exactly.
alive and that you're breathing, which means that God's not done with you yet. And so no matter what you
Yes.
have gone through, no matter how bad it may feel, no matter how deep it is, we can still get up
Yep.
each and every morning and say, God, today your kingdom come and your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, because I woke up another day. And no matter what I'm going through, you're in control. And I'm going to trust that you're in control. And I may not know the why,
Right.
and I don't know why I'm going through the season,
Right.
and I don't know what the future is going to look like.
Exactly.
But I do know that if my story is not finished yet, it's
Yep.
because God has a plan, and I want to go forward
Yep.
with that plan, and I want to live for Him.
So beautiful. Wow, this is so good. I'm inspired. I know the girls are inspired as they hear you share. This is so powerful. And I feel like no matter the season, we are all being blessed and encouraged by your words, by your strength, by you deciding not to quit. Something that I've heard you say before, and you shared this with Earl and I, was there was a family that you guys, that you went to go see. And I believe that they had a family member that had special needs.
Yeah.
And after you had that interaction, you guys made a decision on how you're going to live your life, because you went on cruises and people would think, I can't go on a cruise. My daughter has special needs.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stay at home and play it safe. But you guys have lived a big life and have continued to live a big life when most of us would have hidden and just stayed like home because we didn't want to deal with what felt uncertain.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about that family that you met and how it changed you? Because I feel like it's framed your outlook
It has.
and how you and your family even enter any space.
Yes, absolutely. So we had the honor and the privilege of meeting this sweet little baby
Yes.
girl. She had the exact same condition as London,
Yeah.
which is very rare. There's lissencephaly and then there's Miller-Dieker lissencephaly, which is
Okay.
like the worst form of it. And there's
Okay.
only, I don't know how many there is at this point in time right now,
Okay.
but there was like only like 1,000 across the entire world. Like I was in a group where there was like someone in India and like someone, like there's
Wow.
like people,
It's very rare.
It's very, very rare. And we happened to get to go visit one of these families. And when we were there was no sunshine coming in through the windows.
Wow.
There was the only bit of sunshine was this little girl's little sister, who was the sweetest little pumpkin ever. I just looked at her and like, gosh, you're just so adorable. And she kept like, just bringing in like the energy and stuff. But like the parents were tired. The room was dark. The shades were closed. And this family had centered their entire life around the disorder.
Wow.
And I'm so grateful that I have a husband who can see this and figure out like what's going on and stuff. But he was like, we are not going to have our lives revolve around London. We are going to take London with us.
Wow.
Because we are going to live life, and what's going to make her live life is if she gets to live life with us. And I even would open up every morning, I would open up my windows.
Okay.
And I would, on purpose, I would say, I'm going to let the sunshine in because the sunshine's going to keep coming in every single day. I'm going to remind myself that there is no depression in this home, that there is no darkness in this home, that we are going to stay bright and we are going to stay with our eyes focused on him. And so we let her come with us. And so with that, we went crazy. And I would always try to find wherever we would live, I'd always want a room with a big window so that she could always have that sunshine on her. So she always knew the sun was shining each day.
Wow. So intentional.
So intentional. And with that, we were like, let's go to Disney World. Let's go to.
I love this.
Yes, she has been to Disney World twice, a Disney cruise, another cruise. She's been to Cabo. She's been to Florida.
Wow.
She has been on all these trips. And girl, it was a lot.
Right. Yes.
This wasn't
not
like,
easy.
okay, let's all,
let's snap our fingers and then we show up in another place. Yeah.
No, it's like, okay, there's no possible way that you can take all of this. We're going to have to rent equipment while we're there, make sure that it's delivered. We're going to have to see if maybe there's a nurse that could come. We're going to have to get a wagon. We have to, every single time you have to get every single piece of equipment, the ventilator, the oxygen machines, the everything like all registered with the airlines and stuff, or else you can't bring it on. You have to, like, there's like,
there's
we
a
would
lot
be like
of
going.
reasons why you could have said no.
Yes, absolutely. But you know what? We weren't going to, because we were like, London, you are going to live your best life. We are going to live life and we're going to take you with us. And within our own lives, if say you don't have like a medically dependent child, it's like we are going to live our lives no matter what could possibly be holding us back. Not that London would be holding us back in any way, but we do have things inside of our lives that could be holding us back from living life. And we have to find our ways to make it happen because God wants us to live our life and abundantly.
Exactly.
Enjoying the days, enjoying the sunshine, going out there and just living it. We're not supposed to just be in a dark room just watching movies or whatever it may be. Yes, with our feelings, absolutely. And so it was a lot of work, but we had taken her on all these trips. And so we have our pictures of that. She would feel the sunshine. So sunshine is so important. One of those little like just psychological sides of everything and stuff that we are supposed to be getting vitamin D. We're supposed to be out in the sunshine. And sometimes whenever we're feeling really down, it's as simple as getting some sunshine. Not saying that solves everything.
No, we're with you. Yes,
but
it helps.
It definitely helps. And I remember when London was in her last days, I was like, she needs to go outside and get sunshine. They're like, Mom, just so that you know that's not possible.
Wow.
We can't do that. And I'm like, well, you're going to make it happen.
Go,
because
Mama Bear.
London needs sunshine.
Yes.
And they were like, that's not going to happen. And I'm like, just let me make some phone calls. I'm like calling like the hospice team and all this stuff. I'm like, you have to find a way to get this girl outside because she wants the sunshine. And it turned out they were like, just so you know, she might not survive if we take her outside. I'm like, I said, put her outside.
My daughter's getting sunshine.
My daughter gets sunshine.
Yes.
And she got that sunshine and you could just feel God all over it. But we have to fight for what it is that we want.
That
And
you have a fighter on the inside of you. And I feel like there's some girls that are watching that have lost their fight.
Yeah.
And I believe, like, I'm going to have you look at the camera
Yeah.
and just like imagine the different girls. Some are at home, some are on a run, some are in their car, some are thinking about quitting and giving up. And I feel like by the Spirit of God, you're supposed to prophesy
Yeah.
over them to get
Yeah.
their fight back, to get back in the game, and not to be captive by their why nots
Yeah.
and why they can't. And so if
Yeah.
you could just turn to that camera right there and just speak to the precious daughters.
Yes. To the daughters, I want to say that you were never called to live behind the scenes. You were never called to live behind a curtain. And just as I mentioned earlier, we are all awake and living today because God is not finished with you yet. And I want to say that no matter what you've been through, all the way from losing a child to a spouse, to a mother, to a father, to a brother, to a sister, to a best friend, to a job, to a relationship. I'm not just talking about regular passing away. I'm talking about things inside of our life that has died, that is no longer there. I want to say that God is not finished with you yet. And he is calling you right now to stand up, to open your eyes, to put your chin up and look forward, because this is what he's called you to do. He has given you something. He's given you a precious gift, and that is the gift of joy. And guess what? There is no one and nothing that is allowed to take the gifts of God away from you. So I want to encourage you right now to go get that gift back, because it was never anybody else's to take, ever. I don't care who it is, what situation it is. Nothing can take your joy, because that is a gift that God has given you. So go get that joy back. Get out of the bed. Get off of the couch. Get up. Go outside. Even if it's just outside to walk around for a little bit, say, I am not done, because I know that my God is not finished with me yet. I will continue to go on and do the things that he has called me to do, and I will not stop just because of a situation that's happened inside of my life. I could easily look back and say, without anyone ever judging me for it, I could say, you know what?
I'm done.
I'm going to sit back. I'm done. And nobody would judge me.
No, they
and
would
people
not.
would love me for it.
They would. Yep.
But you know what? That's not the end of my story. And that's not the end of your story. So get up, get that joy, and keep moving forward.
That was holy. That was holy. That was prophetic. That was supernatural. And I cannot wait to hear the stories on the other side of that divine. I feel like something in your spirit connected with the spirit of the girls that are listening. And I feel it was almost like you put your hands on their chest in the spirit, and you and Jesus were like, woof, woof. You're coming back to life in the name of Jesus.
Yes.
I have just a couple more questions. I'm enjoying our time together. I could talk to you forever. The gold and the wisdom that is pouring out of you is profound. One of the questions that I wanted to ask is similar thread of what we've been talking about, but it says, what would you say to girls who have made plans, set a beautiful table, believed for a certain outcome, and then had things not go the way that they prayed for? How would you encourage them?
Yeah. So I would like to go back to something I mentioned earlier.
Yes, do it.
Whenever I said that everyone who's ever done anything great with their lives has gone through something.
That's exactly right.
And we are never going to have things the exact way that we think it's going to.
You're right.
You know, when even Esther approached, you know, the king for his people, like for her people, that she didn't know what things were going to look like.
Exactly.
She's like, I'm going to march up and I'm going to claim all this for my people. And then all of a sudden things were completely different.
Exactly.
And every single story that you look at looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
But as much as our imaginations can try, we could never possibly come up with the beautiful plan that God would have for us.
You're so right.
We can imagine things and get our brains going further than the stars, but none of it would compare, because God is so holy. And he sees us in our strengths, in our weaknesses, and everything that we are. And so we move forward. You know, it's like that whole thing that people always say about you can't move a parked car, right?
Right,
you know,
right.
So we're moving forward. We take our vision and we run with it. But as things shift, I want to challenge people. Okay, I want to challenge people. When things shift, Instead of getting down about it, say thank you.
Oof.
Thank you. This means that my story is about to be greater. This means that my life, that my family, that my future is going to the next level. So you know what, God? Thank you. Whether you sent this or you didn't allow it to stop
Wow.
because of the fact that there's something in the future that I'm going to need from this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So good.
You know, did you, I know you know.
I love this.
You're Oneka, right? But gratefulness, gratitude, and depression can't live in the same house.
Say it again.
Gratitude and depression
Yep.
cannot live in the same house. I will tell you, there have been so many times that I would be walking through the ICU room and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let this get me down. I know that gratitude and depression can't live in the same house. I would start appreciating everything. Somebody opened up the door for me. I'm like, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Someone would walk in to take care of Lynn. I'm like, thank you for giving her meds. I just want to say thank you. You know, texting somebody, thank you for being my friend. Thank you for loving me.
Say it.
Thank you for being you.
Yes.
Whatever it may be and stuff, because you can't have it in the same house.
Right.
And so when something doesn't go your way, guess what? God is on the move.
Right.
There is more to the story. London's life may have been short, but it was full.
Say it.
She lived with purpose. You were talking about the fight, right?
Right.
Okay, let's go pull back on that for a second.
do it.
You said that there is a fight that we get inside of us, right? You
Exactly,
said there's a
yes.
fight inside of me.
No, there is, yes.
There was a fight in her every single day of her life. And I remember the moment I was sitting there and I was like, girl, the doctor had said she was the sickest kid on the ICU. And I'm like, not my girl. She's not the sickest kid. What are you talking about?
Like, wait a
you know,
second.
stuff. But you know what? She was. But
Okay.
I didn't see it. I didn't realize it. And I had this moment of this like epiphany where it was like God was showing me like her fight. Her passion is to live.
Yes,
And she
yes.
does it every single day. She fights to survive.
Fights
she
to
fights to
breathe.
breathe.
Yes.
Literally to breathe. You would watch her stop for a minute because sometimes it would just get so
Too
hard.
much, right.
And we had to help her. You know, stuff, which
Yes.
we come around and we help each other,
Right,
right? You know, and stuff.
exactly,
So
yes.
we can't just do it alone and
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
But she fought every single day and she taught me. And what my prayer is that she doesn't just teach me, but she teaches others. She teaches the girls who are listening to this
Yes.
podcast that no matter what we're going through, we are going to fight
Yes, yep.
each and every day to breathe
Yes,
and to
yes.
live and to
not
push
quit.
forward.
Yep.
And so she may not have lived a long life, but she
Right.
lived a full one. And her story is still being told, and it will still
1000%.
continue to be told because she fought for what she
Exactly.
wanted and what she was living for.
Wow. Wow, this is so powerful. So powerful. Okay, let's talk about as you were navigating all that you have navigated, how you've continued to raise such a remarkable young man. Because your son happens to be one of my son's very best friends.
Yes.
And your son walks into a room with that same strength and confidence that you and your husband embody. And you don't look at your son and you don't feel sorry for him.
No.
You don't think you've had a tough life. You just see a normal kid.
Yeah.
And so how did you fight for him? Because I think sometimes it can be a mother of two that feels stretched, or it can be a working mom, or it can be a stay-at-home mom. And sometimes when you have more than one child,
Yeah.
you feel this fight to give the best life to all of your children, no matter the stretch that you're in. How does he seem so, he just seems unfazed. I mean, obviously I know he has his days, but he feels very seen to me and very confident.
Yeah.
So what did you instill in him to give him the stamina, grace, and strength to not feel forgotten as you guys stretched?
Yeah. That is such a great question. And the first thing I'm going to say is that I know that we were blessed with the right kid at the right time.
Wow.
You know, and so as I was talking about that, we are all born with a purpose. We are
Yes.
all here for a very specific reason.
Yep.
God knew exactly what our family could handle.
Yep.
And he gave us this incredible son that I'm just overly obsessed
remarkable.
with.
Yeah,
he is
he's awesome.
remarkable. I don't know how we got him. And I pray. So every morning, here's what I do.
Tell us.
I pray, I say, God, today, I pray your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I pray for divine wisdom today, divine strategy, and divine favor in the name of Jesus. Because the Bible says
Tell us.
that we ask for wisdom. A lot of people think that we have to just study more, and study more, which we do. We have to study.
But we can ask.
But we can ask.
Yep.
And so with my son, I ask for wisdom. Every single time I'm going to talk to him, I liked what one of the pastors said at the Serve Team conference. He was like, you do everything in your power and let God do the rest.
Right. Yep.
You know, and so what I have done with him and what Carlos has done with him, we've been very unified on this, is that we have done everything in our power and we've let God do the rest. I pray for him all the time.
Yep.
I pray for patience within myself too. And I look and I say, his reality is not the same as my reality.
Right. Right.
Even though we may be going through something similar, right?
Right.
He's a little boy, right? And growing up into a man.
Right.
But he's going to see things different. It's his sister.
Yep.
It is the times that she can't go to his basketball games.
Right.
It's the times that mom can't go because she had to go to the hospital because she was seizing again. It's the times that whenever he has his friends come over, he wants to introduce them to his sister,
Right.
but she's in the middle of a seizure. You know, like that's traumatizing for a kid.
Yes.
You know, that is their sibling. So
Reality.
he is going to have a different reality than me. So I come with a different level of understanding,
That's so
knowing
good.
that we are going to see things differently.
Yep.
And one of the biggest things that I have done, it's like a superpower, okay? This is with business.
Yeah.
This is what has been how I've done sales.
Give
this
us
is
the
what
hack.
I've done.
All the girls want the hacks. They want the handles.
Here we go.
Yes.
You ready?
We're ready.
This is going to be free, but it should cost, right?
Okay. Yes.
Listen. That is the biggest superpower that we don't realize. Sometimes we have to just sit back and listen.
Yep.
And when we're praying and we're believing and my son is going through something, I'm going to say, you know what? Talk to me.
Wow.
And I'm going to just listen. I'm not going to try to correct you.
Right.
I'm not going to try to tell you what to do right now.
Yep.
I'm not going to try to solve your problems. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to listen to your heart.
So
And
good.
you can talk to me as long as you need to, and you can be as real as you need to. I don't care if it's ugly.
Right.
I don't care what it looks like.
Yep, just
because
let me have
all
it.
of it is perfect because it's you.
Exactly.
You know, and stuff. And
Yes.
so I sat back and I listened a lot. And Carlos has done the same thing.
Wow.
And because of that, he's gained trust to where we can now walk through these journeys together.
Wow.
He's gone through his own journey.
Sure.
God has done an enormous amount inside of him, but we have listened
Right.
and allowed him to grow and and listen to God at the same time, praying for wisdom. That at the end, whenever his heart is open now, because I've listened to him,
Yes.
that I can now impart wisdom into him because I asked for wisdom.
Yep.
So now I can impart it into my kid because I asked for it. And I didn't just ask for it for me,
Ask for it for him as well.
I asked for it for him.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. As we close,
Yeah.
I think it's so beautiful to see, you and your husband run a beautiful marketing company together.
you.
And most husbands and wives, you hear these stories and statistics when you go through what you guys have gone through, that marriages don't even make it because of the stress that's put on anytime you're dealing with a child going through any type of trauma, and all that you've walked through, and you're leading this successful company together.
Yeah.
How has community helped you and your husband stand tall in the midst of every battle that you faced?
Wow.
Or recent battles?
Recent battles. Yeah. So the battle has been different in every season.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're constantly going to the ICU, you have one car, you're running a business, you have another kid, there's a lot of battle there. Right.
Yep. Wow.
And one of the things that I will mention, and then I'll say what it is now, but I'll make it quick,
Yes, you're great.
is that we were so intentional about who we let into our lives.
Oof.
I remember Carlos saying one time, he was like, my anthem for this family for this year, this was several years ago, he was like, is that I'm going to protect this house. I'm only going to let the right people into our home. And I was like, wow. And
Mic
he
drop,
was, it was a mic drop, right? And we started shifting where we were intentionally putting our relationships, where we were saying yes, where we're building this, right? And I remember after doing that for a while, I remember we were at the house. My brother was with me. So beautiful. He took off like a month of work to just come and hang out with me and be with me. He would go to bed when I went to bed. He would wake up when I woke up. He did everything. And I had, your husband showing up at the door. I had Casey. I had another friend, Gladys. I had all these friends like coming to the door and stuff, and they were all there in our time of need, and they were all beyond anything anyone could ever ask for, right? And I remember my brother saying, "How did you find these friends?"
Wow.
And I was like, "We were intentional." Carlos said, "I'm going to protect this house, and we're going to make sure that the people that are in our lives are the right people that are supposed to be there." And whenever we made that declaration, it's like God just brought the right people into our lives. And I will tell you, God used every friend during that season to help us get through. I would not have gotten through the grief journey the way that I did without the community that was built.
Wow.
And now we even have this connect group at church that we're just obsessed with. We've built this beautiful community with them. We've even traveled together. We've done all kinds of stuff together. And the majority of them never even met London. But they were supposed to be a part of our lives now. And I don't know why they weren't there before.
Right.
But God had intentionally put them in my life now, in Carlos's life now. And now as we're going through this journey together, Carlos has this great group of guys. I have a great group of girls. We have a great group of couples together and stuff. And it took us a little while of just finding the right group. But once we found the right group, it's like we are going through this life journey together, and we're all being able to share our journeys, vulnerable with each other, because we can't speak into each other's lives without being vulnerable, right?
Exactly.
And so, yeah.
And why do you think people think when they walk through hard times that they need to stop living life to the fullest? What is the lie that we believe? What is the death sentence we give ourselves? Because I feel like there's some girls listening that have said, I need to stop living because I just can't keep fighting, or I just feel tired, or it's not what I planned.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say as we close to remind people to keep going and to be okay with their portion of hard?
Yeah. I feel like the biggest killer to our life is when we lose hope. And guess who is hope?
Yep.
God is hope.
Yep.
And when we are going through stuff, the enemy starts putting up walls between us and other people, starts putting up walls with us and our relationship with God.
Exactly. Yes.
When he is the hope that
way,
we
the
have.
truth, and the light. Yep.
Yes. And so I feel like whenever we are going through the hardest times of our life, the biggest thing that the enemy can do is put up walls between us and the hope of salvation that God has given us. And when we see that, the biggest thing that we get is being deceived, right? And the worst thing about being deceived is you don't know you're being deceived, right?
Exactly.
And so when it is exposed and we realize, wait a minute, no matter what's going on around me, on the other side of this wall, there's hope.
Yes, yes.
I want that hope. I want to knock down this wall. And you know what? With God living inside of us, we can knock down any wall.
Exactly.
I don't care how big the wall is.
Yep,
when Jericho walls fell down, they didn't have to have hammers out there knocking it down. It was their voice.
Yep.
Because God gave them a voice. And every single girl that is listening to this podcast has a voice.
Yep.
Whether it can be heard or not. Because London's voice couldn't be heard, but her voice was heard. So no matter how loud our voice is, how quiet our voice is, no matter what it is, we have a voice that God gave us. And we can speak to the walls and say, fall, I see the hope on the other side.
Wow. We will just end right there. This is one of those conversations, girls. You need you to like it. I need you to subscribe. I need you to send this to every girl that you know, because there's this song that we just wrote at the church, and it's called Wait for Hope. And there's this line that says, you see the end and it's good.
Yes.
And God sees the end of your story. He sees the middle. He sees the beginning.
Amen.
And he has good for you. We just have to wait for hope and not lose hope. We pray that during this holiday season, or even if you listen to this after the holiday season, that you find hope. You can borrow our strength and call on strength from heaven. There's anything that you can make it through with the grace and strength of Almighty God. We love you and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.